Do you feel drawn to learn more about witchcraft and the occult, but feel lost on where to start? Then welcome to Get In Loser, We're Doing Witchcraft, a podcast all about what it means to be a witch and where to get started on your journey.
Join us as we navigate through various witchy topics and share what we have learned about the craft. So get in, witches, for part 1 of Magical Plants and Herbs.
So a couple of things before we begin. First off, if you can't hear it in my voice, I have lost my voice somehow today and I'm just now getting it back. So if the audio sounds a little bit weird, that's why. And then Tiffany, I know you've been up struggling.
I've been up since 6 a.m. for 7 a.m. breakfast.
Against your will.
Yeah, against my will. No, Anthony literally said he was going to tickle me out of bed because I hate being tickled.
Oh, me
like,
too.
if you do not get out of this bed right now, I'm going to tickle you. And I was like, God damn it. Fine. And then my allergies are horrible. You know, you're in between. It's like stuffy and runny at the same time. That's the situation I'm working with today. Yay, pollen.
Not cute. Yeah.
Love spring.
It's not cute. You're like, like stuffy, sniffly stuff going on. I sound like a man. I mean, it is what it is.
Just bear with us today, guys. Okay. We're on the struggle bus.
But in other amazing news, before we started the episode, we wanted to just give a huge shout out to our first subscriber, Trisha.
Woo! We
Yay.
are so thankful for your support of our show as it allows us to keep doing what we love.
And if anyone's listening and they are interested in subscribing to the show or even wanting to just give a donation to the show to help us continue doing what we love, our Supercast link is provided in the show notes, or you could just search Supercast for our website and donate to the show that way as well.
So today we are talking about the magical properties of plants and herbs. And this is going to be a part 1. There was no way we could cover all of this in one episode. Like, we have a lot for this episode and it's only covering a small portion. So we're definitely going to do more on this in future episodes, but this is just part 1. So just to preface, before we get into any of the information that we're going to talk about today, while saying this over and over definitely makes me feel like I'm a broken record, I just want to say, like, always do your research before working with plants, especially if you're going to be consuming them. So while plants are like absolutely amazing, not all plants are 100% safe. Some plants can be like perfectly safe for you to touch, while others can be toxic just by touch. And then not all plants are safe for consumption. Obviously, some plants are poisonous. If adding plants to oils or other products that you're going to come in contact with your skin, make sure that you test them on a small area first to make sure that you're not going to have a reaction to what you're using. And then another warning I want to give is that while an herb or a plant might be safe for you as an adult, they may not be safe for your children or your pets. So with that, just please be sure to research and then cross-reference prior to working with plants and herbs. Because if you don't, you could get sick, you could have weird skin reactions, some of them could kill you. It's just really important that you're looking at what you're consuming, what you're using when it comes to plants. So to start, just some general information. Plants and herbs have a long sordid history, having been used both for healing and for magic throughout time. They're medicine, and they were considered the first pharmacopoeia, having been used by healers, shamans, wise women, witches, cunning folk, and early doctors. And this is, prior to big pharma coming in and being like, I'm sorry, what are you using to get rid of your headache? White willow bark? Cool. We're going to take that and make Tylenol and then sell it to you for money. So a lot of medicines that are sold through like big pharma or pushed by doctors actually use parts of the plant to create the medicine. Herbalist will tell you that they fully understand when you're using a plant for something, it's important to use the whole plant because sometimes parts of a plant might be toxic, But if you're using the whole plant, there are things within the plant to balance that out. Whereas if you're separating them out like they do in medicine and whatnot, you're taking away that balance. So plants are meant to be consumed whole. Plants are the embodiment of life and abundance on earth, and they contain both magical and medicinal properties. They also hold the earth's energy within them, and that's what makes them like a perfect ally for witchcraft. Plants teach us to put down roots, to turn toward the light, and create what we need to survive while also giving back to those around us. I know I've said it on the show before, I'm currently going through Herbal Academy School, and this was actually something that we read in our textbooks this past week. It says our very humanness depends on them, and in return, they depend on us. Their out-breath is our in-breath, our exhale, their inhale. And that was from Stephen Herod Buhner, but I don't know like what book it came from because they just took the quote and put it in our textbook. But I loved that. I felt like it's very fitting for what we're going to talk about today.
I love that too.
I thought it was really cute. With that, when working with herbs, you can do this in several different ways, obviously. So if you're doing it medicinally or using herbs for self-care, there's allopathy. This is the mainstream system of health in Western society. It relies on reducing symptoms being exhibited rather than taking the holistic approach. So when you think of allopathy, you can think prescription medications, majority of which contain phytochemicals derived from plants, like I said, with the aspirin, which uses willow bark. And willow bark is a plant used to make pain and inflammation reducing tinctures. So when you're thinking allopathy, you can just think big pharma, essentially. Naturopathy is a system of health that involves activating the body's ability to heal itself. So the healing process is viewed as this internal mechanism that can be amplified with specific remedies and regimens particular to that individual person. So you're thinking like no one size fits all remedy. Everything is individual and it depends on the symptoms that are being shown in that person. Homeopathy is a system of health that employs diluted ingredients that may be of animal, mineral, or plant derivation to address wellness issues by matching symptoms. So similar to naturopathy in that it seeks to stimulate the natural healing process. So this is the idea that like cures like. And then aromatherapy is used to treat a variety of ailments through using medicinal grade extracts of herbs and plants that are diluted into carrier oils. And then those are either applied topically or ones that are safe to consume are taken internally. And with this, you're stimulating the olfactory senses. Indigenous or tribal medicine employs magic along with herbs, animals, and mineral remedies. It's an oral tradition passed down from generation to generation and is specific to those tribes. So healing rites, rituals, and ceremonies that are centered on curing disease. And these often aren't written down. It's just an oral tradition. And then there's herbalism. So herbalists are trained in therapeutic administration of herbs. They have to complete a minimum of 1,600 hours of study at a school of herbal medicine, as well as a minimum of 400 clinical hours. They take a holistic approach while using herbs in their complete form, so giving an element of harmony to assist the healing process and overall wellness. This is a natural balance and complete synergy with holistic mind, body, spirit approach. This is what I'm doing, and I love it. I literally could talk plants all day. So it's worth noting that the first written record of herbal medicine appears on Sumerian clay tablets dated to be over 5,000 years old. And archaeological evidence suggests that medicinal plants were used as far back as 60,000 years ago. People and plants are meant for each other. When you're working with herbs magically, you can do tons of different things. So I'm just going to go through just kind of simple things because we cover a lot of it in other episodes. But something you can do is you can make herbal pillows. So for something like a dream pillow, you could use mugwort or lemon balm with cosmere, rose, mint, and cloves. Something that could be a nightmare cure would be anise seed. And then if you need like a melancholy cure, you could use thyme. And for easy sleep, you can do fresh peppermint, but you have to refill it every night because peppermint fades pretty quickly, but it is a very calming herb. You can burn herbs as incense. You can brew edible herbs into tea or infusions. Cook with herbs, obviously. Most of us do that already. You can add them to your baths, which is one of my favorite things to do with them. You can add them to oil for candle anointing or skin safe herbs to be used on yourself. You can incorporate them into your spells, and then you can even add them into spell pouches that you carry with you. So all plants and herbs and flowers, like all of them, trees even, have magical properties to them or are tied to certain things within witchcraft. So while there are thousands of plants that you can work with in your craft, this list is just going to be more common magical kitchen herbs used just to kind of get us started on this topic. Chances are that you have a good portion of these herbs in your own cupboard, or you can obtain them at your local grocery store. Given here will be the plant's common name, the part of the plant that you use, and its magical properties. So I'm going to start with some of the plants from that are like more common in the northern hemisphere. And then when we move forward, Sam will discuss a few magical plants from the southern hemisphere. So I wanted to start with basil because I feel like everybody has basil. Basil is a very, very common herb that people use in cooking. And so chances are, if you're listening to this, you have this in your cupboard. So with basil, you use the leaves, and these can be fresh or dried. Basil is tied to peace, protection, happiness, love, prosperity, luck. It cultivates strength. Something I came across in one of my Cunningham books is there's a prediction spell with basil leaves. So you place 2 basil leaves on a hot coal. If they turn to ash, this symbolizes a successful partnership. But if they hiss, it indicates that there might be marital strife or relationship strife, which I thought was kind of cool. I don't know. I was going through his thing and I was like, oh, I love this.
I love that too. I've never heard that, but
yeah,
I'm like super interested about this.
Right. But also I'm like, I mean, I have a great relationship, so I don't know why these things make me like anxious sometimes.
But maybe it can help, like, say if you have a friend, we've all had a friend that was kind of, of sketch in the past, or you didn't know, like maybe this would help to clarify or predict, like, is this person a good friend to me, or is this person not so great?
Yeah, we definitely could have used this in the past.
Yeah, we could have.
And then with basil also represents the element of fire. So bay is another great herb that most people probably have in their pantry. With bay, you use the leaves. And again, these can be fresh or dried. Bay is tied to wisdom, divination, dream work, legal success, winning in court, victory, psychic powers. It's ruled by the earth, the sun, and Jupiter, and it represents the element of fire. Bay can be used in witchcraft in so many different ways, but one of the ways that I have used it in the past is with simmer pots. We've talked about before, like I love to do a simmer pot in the kitchen, and I use like bay, cloves, cinnamon, and then apples and lemon or some kind of citrus. But you can write on the bay leaf like your intentions or things that you're trying to let go or sigils or whatever you want to do, and put that in the simmer pot. I know a lot of people also use them with like fire magic, writing stuff onto the bay leaf and then burning it. So there's a lot of ways that you can use it. You can also like grind it up and anoint your candles with it, or use it, as an incense. So it's another very versatile herb that you probably have in your kitchen pantry right now. Chamomile is probably one of my favorite flowers to use outside of rose. Rose is my absolute favorite, but chamomile, you use the flowers. They're tied to prosperity, peace, harmony, happiness, luck, money drawing, culmination, healing, rest, regeneration, dreams, meditation, success, and manifestation. They're tied to summer, Letha, and Lunasa. And it is also believed to be a healing presence to other plants. And it's been called the plant's physician. So if you plant it in your garden with other plants, it is said to help them be healthier.
That just makes my heart really happy.
Right.
And
they're
chamomile.
So cute. They're cute little flowers. Chamomile is ruled by the sun, and it represents the element of water. Another very common kitchen herb is cinnamon. With cinnamon, you use the bark. I remember when I first found out that cinnamon was bark, I was like, what? Like most herbs, like you're using like leaves and flowers or roots, and the cinnamon is just literally bark of a tree, a cinnamon tree.
I didn't even know that until just now. Why have I never thought of that before? Because I'm like, I've never
It
seen
looks like it
growing like some brown shit off
some
of it.
brown like rolled up. Yeah, no, it's actually bark, which
Oh my
I just
God.
remember learning that and being like, what?
I wonder who thought to like go up to a tree, sniff it, and be like, this shit
Mm.
smells amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take it off,
Let me
grind it
chew
up.
this bark.
Yeah.
Well, and like for me, I have cinnamon in every form in our house. Like we have powdered cinnamon, we use it in our coffee. I've talked about blowing it out my front door, like those kinds of things. I have cinnamon chips that I use in incense, and sometimes I'll put them in like bath teas. We have whole cinnamon sticks that I include in simmer pots, and of course like mulled wine, because it is a delectable little treat. We literally, Anthony's like, how much cinnamon do you need? And I'm like, they're all different forms. Okay. Back off my cinnamon, dude.
Yeah.
So,
You can like purify your cauldron with it if you light it on fire.
mhm.
And like it smells really good when you do that too.
Yeah, that's why I love to use the cinnamon bark chips in incense, because it's so nice when you burn it. So cinnamon is tied to success. It's a spell amplifier. It's good for manifesting, for energy, for purification, repose, influencing people in high places, good graces. It's used for gambling, fortune, luck, and rest. It's tied to winter, Yule, and Imbolc. And it's also connected to Aphrodite, Venus, and Mercury, and ruled by Jupiter. And it represents the element of fire. It's a very versatile little bark.
It is. It's beautiful.
Is. Sage is another very common kitchen herb. So again, chances are this is already in your pantry. I love growing my own sage outside. It's so nice to be able to go out and just pick some fresh sage and add it to some chicken or something. You use the leaves, and again, these can be fresh or dried. Sage is tied to purification, protection, clearing, cleansing, wisdom, invocation, harvest, and reaping. It's used in fertility magic and for invoking luck and prosperity. It's tied to autumn, Mabon, and Samhain. And it's also an astringent. So you can take sage and make it into a tonic for throat inflammation. So this might be good for you right now.
I have a sage plant in my window downstairs.
Yeah. So you can do tincture or tonic. Tincture takes a while. So you have to put it in, like, I use vodka for my tinctures because you want something with a higher proof. But you basically just fill a jar with it, completely cover it with vodka, let it sit for 4 weeks, but shake it every day. And then at 4 weeks, strain it out and you can use it. It's great. We make tinctures all the time of all kinds of things. I actually have some willow bark that I'm getting ready to make an inflammation tincture with. So outside of that though, sage is connected to Jupiter and Zeus, and then it represents the element of earth.
So screw TRICARE. Tiffany,
Literally.
you're now my doctor.
Look, I told you, I was like, I am sick of all this shit. I'm just going to learn it myself. I absolutely hate going to the doctor. And then I hate medication because they're like, take this medication, but you're also going to get this side effect from it. So you need to take this medication. And at one point I was just like, so I'm taking this medication for a headache, but I have to take this medication to counteract the side effect of this medication. And then on top of it, I need another medication. It was too much.
It is. Well, and then like just this is going to make me sound incredibly crazy. And I realize that off the bat. But like, you know, with everything, you're prescribed like antibiotics for everything. We are getting resistant to antibiotics. And so if I know like I'm coming down with something, like for instance, whenever Avery was a baby, I knew because I had breastfed both of my children, I had already experienced mastitis and I thought I was dying. And my husband took me to the hospital. Like it was terrible. That was like the worst pain, worse than giving birth. But I felt it coming on with Avery. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to go through this again. So I knew that garlic is a great like antibiotic, natural antibiotic. So I just took like 4 garlic cloves and I cut them up into pill size things that I could swallow. And I just like took them with some water and it cured my mastitis. So, I mean, I'm not saying don't go to the doctor if you need to go to the doctor. And I'm not saying like
definitely go to the doctor, but there are so many things that you can do if it's caught early or as prevention.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. and it worked. Like I didn't need a huge, because the last time that it happened to me, I had to go and get these huge like horse pill antibiotics. I had to get a freaking shot in my butt cheek. Like I was running like 104-degree fever. It was terrible. And I was like, I can feel this coming on. I know what this is. I didn't have to go to the doctor or anything. I was fine by the next day. So I'm just saying. Tiffany's my new doctor. So
look, plants are medicine. I joke all the time, like you know, I've been like harvesting dandelions out the ass because I'm like, I just finished a dandelion wine and it turned out so delightful. It still technically has to sit for 6 weeks, but even at this point, it tastes so nice. So it's in its like clarification process right now, bottled, all cute and pretty. Looks like a little bottle of sunshine. I've done apple cider vinegar infused with dandelions, which is so good on salads and vegetables. And then I did an oil infused with dandelions, and I'm going to do, what am I doing? That with, I don't remember. I have like 3 different flowers sitting in oil right now that I'm going to turn into a skin salve. So it's like, they're good for like insect bites, for burns, for just dry skin in general. Like I'm so excited, but dandelion was one of those. Look, my homework is the best. I have so much fun. This is like, I don't know why I didn't do this earlier because I absolutely love it. And then, so the last one that I'm going to talk about is thyme. Again, another very common kitchen item. With thyme, you also use the leaves. Again, these can be fresh or dried. It doesn't matter. And thyme is tied to bravery, love, attraction, protection. It's sacred to the dead. It's good for courage, for harvest and reaping. It's tied to autumn, Mabon, and Samhain, as well as associated with the fairy realm. And it's believed that if you drink an infusion of thyme on Letha, you'd be able to observe the dance of the seed, which we also talked about during our Letha episode. You could anoint your eyelids with thyme infused oil, and it's supposed to allow you to see into the fairy realm on Letha. Thyme also represents the element of air.
I love thyme. All of those.
I do too.
I mean, all of those ones you discussed, I know you said like these are very common in your kitchen cabinets. I have them all downstairs and use them so much in cooking. And I just think it's amazing knowing the plants that you have in your cupboard right now, or in your windowsill or wherever. You can use them in so many different things.
Yep. You can use them as medicine. You can use them magically. You can use them just to season food. I love plants.
As Tiffany mentioned earlier, we wanted to discuss some plants that are seen in the Southern Hemisphere as well, because a lot of information that we discussed on our podcast and then pretty much every other podcast out there, it's really limited to what's available in the Northern Hemisphere. And that's largely because, I mean, I know me and you, we both live in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
But for this episode, I think it's important to incorporate some magical plants that are seen outside of the Northern Hemisphere, because there's a lot of things that just aren't available outside of here.
Right.
For instance, I know just from talking with my friend who lives in Australia, sometimes magical objects and occult shops can be really hard to come by in Australia, and shipping supplies from the United States or places in Europe can be very expensive. And I imagine that this is the case for many people who live outside the Northern Hemisphere. The truth is, a lot of the information about the Southern Hemisphere is underrepresented, even in terms of the Sabbats, because dates are completely different between the North and Southern Hemispheres. So hopefully some of what we discuss will be things that you have access to and that you can easily access where you live. To start off, I have eucalyptus, and I know that has been, I mean, that's seen in the Northern Hemisphere as well, but it originates in Australia. The folk names for this tree are the gum tree, iron bark, or stringy bark, and it's associated with the element of water, the direction of west. The moon phase that it's associated with is the new moon. The day of the week it's associated with is Wednesday. The planet that it's associated with is Pluto, and the zodiac sign associated with eucalyptus is Cancer. So the parts of the tree that can be used are the leaves, the gum, and the essential oils of the tree. Eucalyptus can be used in anti-inflammatory and antibacterial purposes and can help with congestion and mild respiratory issues. It can be used as a cough suppressant, expectorant, and decongestant, which I need all 3 of those today.
Right now.
So I need it. Indigenous people used the leaves in bedding, and the branches that were hollowed out by termites were used to create didgeridoos, which I thought was the coolest like little factoid that I found about eucalyptus, because I was just like, that's cool.
That is cool.
Eucalyptus can also be used in paper production for its timber, and it can also be used for its essential oils and as a windbreak by planting it or using the leaves to break the wind. I feel like it's a very resourceful tree to have. Like you can use all parts of it in so many different ways.
I love eucalyptus. It's so nice. It smells so nice. I have the essential oil that I use sometimes in the shower. It's really nice. You know, clears your sinuses. It's relaxing.
I need it. So, but with eucalyptus, there's a huge warning associated with it. And as with everything we've discussed, we always go back to the advice of doing your own research. But eucalyptus has a lot of warnings in its usage around children. Eucalyptus can be toxic if consumed or applied in large quantities. It shouldn't be used on or around children under the age of 6, and with extreme caution with children under 12, as it can cause suffocation. Further, eucalyptus is not safe for those with epilepsy or seizure disorders or people with high blood pressure. It can cause skin irritation, and it should not be used consecutively for more than 2 weeks. And it's also very toxic to cats. So just be careful.
It's really funny because I read that koalas eat eucalyptus leaves. And I read that like literally they eat, you know, so much of it that, and it's actually still toxic to them, but I guess they just have like a tolerance to it because it's what they've eaten forever. But that's why they like sleep so much, apparently, is like because they eat these leaves that are actually kind of toxic, but that's the only food source they eat.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? That'd be like me eating something that I was allergic to and then being like, I mean, it's fine.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
I just need to sleep for a little bit and then I'll be better.
Yeah. I didn't know like how true it was when I initially read it, but I have read that there's so many like toxic ties to eucalyptus, which is funny because that's like a huge thing right now. Have you seen like you can buy eucalyptus branches that tie around your shower head so that you get the eucalyptus steam every day in your shower? Like it's a really popular thing right now and it's all over social media.
Yeah. And like, I really hope these people are researching that shit.
You know, they're not, you know, that's why I'm always like, please research when it comes to plants.
Yeah.
I do feel like a broken record on the podcast, but it is so important to say that when it comes to plants, because there are so many things that can make you sick that, you know, maybe you can use it every now and then, but you shouldn't use it for more than 2 weeks, or maybe it's fine for you, but it's not okay for your animals or your children. So it is really important to make sure you're researching these things.
It really is. Another one that I thought was really cute, just because I love the name, is kangaroo paw. And this is seen in Western Australia. The indigenous names for this plant are the Nalamara and the Kurralbrang. I'm not sure how to say that. I tried Google searching it too, but couldn't figure out how to say it. So
look, we say this all the time. We do our best.
It's associated with the element of water, the direction of west. It's associated with Mondays, the planet Neptune, and the zodiac sign Pisces. The magical properties include emotion, compassion, balance, friendship, harmony, love, beauty, forgiveness, sincerity, and reconciliation. It speeds up the skin's renewal process, reduces fine lines and wrinkles, firms the skin, and hydrates and brightens the skin. And also, if spent too long outside in the sun, it can work like aloe vera to calm the skin. And it can be used as a cut flower crop or ornamental plant, which is cute.
That is cute.
The indigenous uses for this plant, it comes from I'm probably saying it wrong, rhizomus roots. And they were eaten either raw or roasted, which sounds actually delicious. And sometimes they were ground into a paste, which was formed into cakes and baked. Ooh. So kind of cool. The next one is tea tree, and the origin of this is also Australia. The folk names are the narrow-leaved paperbark. The indigenous names for tea tree is Moura. It's associated with the element of water, again, the direction of west. It's associated with Fridays, the planet Neptune, and the zodiac sign of Pisces. And the magical properties include healing, protection, harmony, wisdom, purification, clarity, vitality, and consecration. It is emotionally uplifting. It helps revive and help with mental focus. It can ease colds and flus and congestion. It's an antibacterial, an antiseptic, an antifungal, and it helps with infections like those little nose bumps. What are those called? Keloids after you get your piercings.
Yeah.
Or also it repels insects, which I have actually used this before. One time Emily came home from school back when we lived in Oklahoma. It was like, I think she was in kindergarten. She came home from school and she was like, Mom, my head itches. And I was like, oh no, like every parent's worst fear. I checked and she had lice. And I was like, holy shit. I put like a few drops of tea tree oil in her hair and washed out her hair. It killed all the live bugs that were in her hair. And then I just had to like comb through and get the nits out. And that was the only treatment I had to do. And I only had to do it once. And they were gone.
That's awesome. I never, like, I didn't know that it could be used for that.
Yeah. And then
but it is often used in like bug sprays.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so for a little while after that too, is I would just put like a couple of drops of tea tree oil in our shampoo and then like wash our hair with it just to keep, but we've not had any issues since. Ooh, just FYI. And it's also
keep tea tree oil on hand.
Right? Yeah. If you're a parent, you might need that.
Yeah.
And it's also been seen used in soaps, toothpaste, deodorants, and in aftershaves and colognes. So the parts of the plant that are used are the leaves and the twigs. And the indigenous uses were to treat headaches, sinusitis, respiratory problems, coughs, upset stomachs, and rheumatic aches and pains. Like this reminds me of the Windex from the Big Fat Greek Wedding.
You got some Windex?
Yeah, it's used for everything. And that's why I feel like tea tree is that thing that is used for everything.
Tea tree is the Windex of Australia.
The leaves and stems were crushed and heated to use as a poultice, a salve, or ointment to treat muscle aches. The bark was also used to make bandages and also as sanitary pads, toilet paper, and to wrap food, and could also be used in creating shelter.
I love this.
It is amazing. Could you imagine if Always just came out with like a sanitary napkin that could also be used as like aluminum foil? I mean,
multi-purpose.
Exactly. Why did we ever stray from this?
Right.
The flowers were soaked in water to make a drink called mangite, and sometimes this was fermented to make an alcoholic drink called gep. I'm not sure how great this would taste, but I would be down to try it.
I'd probably try it. I don't know that I'd like it.
Yeah, tea tree is so strong that I just don't think that I would like it in a drink, but who knows?
Who knows?
The leaves were also used in smoking ceremonies.
Okay.
Tea tree has great protective qualities to it as well. It's used to cleanse and protect before or after magical workings and can be used to cleanse and consecrate magical tools and spaces. And so along the shores where tea tree grows wild, legend states that those waters hold healing powers to it, which is really cute.
That is really cute. I like that.
Yeah. So next is aloe vera. Aloe vera originates in the Arabian Peninsula, but grows all over the world and is found in tropical, semi-tropical, or arid climates. The folk names for this are the burn plant, the medicine plant, the Barbados aloe, which at first I thought was a misprint and it was supposed to be Barbados aloe, but apparently
Barbados.
Not. Yeah, I've never heard that before. And Curacao aloe. Ancient Egyptians called it the plant of immortality, and it was used in the mummification process, which is pretty freaking cool. It's associated with the element of water, the direction of west, the planet of Venus and the moon, the zodiac sign of Cancer, and it's also associated with femininity and the deities Aphrodite and Venus. And the crystals associated with aloe are obsidian, citrine, and amethyst. And this was the only plant that I researched that had crystals listed as like they're like associated with. So
I feel like that one was very rare. I only came across like crystals associated to plants like once or twice.
Yeah, there needs to be more.
There should be.
We should do it ourselves. Aloe is a healing plant that has been used for centuries on burns, skin ailments, and it aids in digestion. It's also used as a natural deodorant and insect repellent, and it has antiviral, antibacterial, and antioxidant properties. It can lower blood sugar, treat wrinkles, prevent skin damage from UV rays, protects the skin from damage caused by radiation therapy, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It helps to treat mouth ulcers and can help reduce depression. Not sure how, but that's just what I said on the internet. So
it probably has some phytochemical that is tied to whatever brain chemicals are tied to depression.
Yeah. Historically, it was also used by Romans to treat gingivitis and hair loss. And Cleopatra used aloe vera in her skin routines. And now you see people on TikTok freezing aloe vera and they're rubbing it like all over their skins. And supposedly it like really, really helps with like your complexion and stuff. So
it's also super hydrating.
Yeah. Christopher Columbus brought aloe plants on his ships to treat ailments and injuries. And aloe vera is also seen being used in Japanese and Chinese medical practices to help with aches and pains as well. Pretty interesting stuff on aloe vera, and the fact that it was just literally from the Arabian Peninsula and then just transmitted all over the earth because everybody found out how amazing it was.
I love aloe. We had an aloe plant here and it's, I think, too humid for it because it just like, it kind of rotted. It was too much, like it never got to, the soil needs to dry out in aloe before you water it again. And it's very hard to get the soil to dry out here in the summer with all the humidity. But growing up, we always had aloe plants like planted in our yards. Anthony's grandma had a huge one. His aunt has a giant aloe plant that they can be a little dangerous because they are very prickly, but they're great. I love these plants so much. There's so much to them and so many uses for them.
Yeah. And if it does stab your arm, you can just cut off a piece and just like slather it on there, right?
No, that literally, so one of the times we went home for Thanksgiving, Anthony was walking through, his aunt has one like on her patio basically. And he was like walking through from the front door, like leaving the house, and he turned and the plant just like stabbed his arm. He had this huge hole. It's a big aloe plant, so it's pretty tough. So I had to like clean it all out and I put some aloe on it and bandaged it up for him.
Sounds like it's great at keeping people out of your home that you can in your home.
Yeah.
Some of the magical properties of aloe, it's said to ward away bad luck and keep malevolent energies away, and can also be used in spells for beauty and health. And I thought this tidbit was kind of cool because I currently have an aloe plant downstairs in my kitchen window and it's not doing too great. So when I read this online, I was like, what? But so it says to watch its color. If it's vibrant green and super healthy, it will attract abundance and luck into your home. But if the plant starts to fade in color or becomes ashy, which mine has, it means that the plant is protecting you by absorbing negative energies around you.
What a sweet little aloe.
Yeah, but also like, I guess maybe I should do another protection spell around my house.
Maybe that's what happened with my aloe.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah. So it's, just to sum up aloe, it can be used in healing, protection, beauty, love, moon magic, and in abundance spells. So there's many uses outside of just medicinal uses for aloe. And then the last one that I'm going to talk about is sandalwood. Sandalwood comes in many varieties like white, red, Indian, and Australian. White sandalwood is listed currently as a vulnerable species. Red sandalwood is listed as near threatened, and Indian is listed as endangered. So there are ethical concerns about the usage of those varieties. However, Australian sandalwood is cultivated, harvested, and regulated and sold by the Australian government. So this is the preferred species that you should use if you're wanting to work with sandalwood. And it's associated with the element of water, the direction of west, again, because it's associated with the element of water. The moon phase is associated with is the full moon. It's associated with Monday, the planet of the moon, the zodiac sign of Cancer. It's associated with the deities Venus and Vishnu. And it's been used for thousands of years in Buddhist and Muslim rituals and used by Egyptians, also in mummification and in embalming rituals. It's also seen in China and Tibet, where it's used for its antiseptic properties. And the wood itself has been used to craft carvings for shrines, figurines, and jewelry. And then also when the wood is ground down, it can be used in beauty treatments or applied to the skin as as a cleanser. And sandalwood oil is harvested and used as an anti-inflammatory. Research right now is going on to see if it can help impact cancer and other diseases, which I thought was pretty cool.
That is really cool.
As far as the magical properties of sandalwood, it's used in healing, spirituality, purification, protection, astral projection, peace, and divination. Burning sandalwood incense is said to help with issues related to self-identity, security, stability, and trust. And in many Hindu rites, sandalwood is used to consecrate ritual tools before ceremonies. Buddhists believe that sandalwood can be used to keep one connected to the material world during meditation. So it's like used in grounding. Sandalwood is associated with the seventh or the root chakra. In some beliefs, sandalwood is also used in business magic. So in this practice, you would write down your intent on a sandalwood chip or a stick, and then you would burn it to release your intent or desire, which sounds awesome. And it sounds like it would smell amazing.
It would smell amazing. I use it in incense.
And it can also be used to calm and in relaxation, and can help ease stress, anxiety, depression, and insomnia. So
just another like fun tidbit about sandalwood. It is one of the ingredients in Four Thieves incense or oils, because you can do it with oils too. This was back when the plague was happening. There were 4 thieves that were going in and like robbing people who'd like succumbed to the plague essentially. And they couldn't figure out why they weren't getting sick. Like people were like, surely they're going to die because they're going in all these like plague ridden houses. They were wearing masks filled with 4 Thieves oils that include sandalwood because it is antiseptic.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So they got to go around and rob all these sick houses. Because they used a blend that included sandalwood that kept them from getting sick.
I really like that. And, I want to make my own 4 Thieves, like just spray. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to do that. I know that they sell it like, what is it? Young Living, I think sells it, but I want to make my own. And I don't know how to do that. So I'll have to research that.
I have my incense recipe. So that would give you like the oil ingredients you would need, or I guess you could just infuse with like dry ingredients too, but I can send you what I do for my incense.
That sounds awesome.
We can post it on our social too.
Yes.
I think I have posted it on our social like early on, but
I think you did as well. But yeah, and if anyone out there is listening has made their own like 4 Thieves cleanser, hit me up because I really want to make it.
With that, I had a few extra fun tidbits that I wanted to include in our first plant episode. A lot of movies or TV shows or even like books that have witches in them, they'll be like over a cauldron, like stirring it and saying things like, oh, an eye of newt or a wing of bat or, like whatever. But these actually aren't those things. These are actually code names that witches used for plants and herbs that they used in their spells. So they use these secret names for plants to protect not only the ingredients of their spells, but it was believed that if somebody couldn't understand the spell, they would not be persecuted as witches. So some examples that I found, and please feel free to research this because there are a bajillion out there and they're fantastic. They're really funny. So the first one is adder's tongue, and this can either be plantain or dogtooth violet. It's been documented as both. So I don't know if it's used interchangeably or if they just couldn't figure out which one it was. Dead man's bells is purple foxglove. Bat's wing is holly leaf. Devil's cherry is belladonna. The semen of Eris is clover.
I have a ton of that in my front yard right now.
Of clover, you got semen all over your yard. Eris's semen is just all over. He really had a great time there.
I'm dying. That is my favorite thing ever.
You should just start calling it that.
That's exactly what I'm calling it from now on.
Lion's tooth is dandelion, and this is because the leaves actually resemble the tooth of a lion. Swine snout is dandelion flowers because when the flowers close up, they look like a little pig snout.
They do.
Yeah. So they were called swine snout. Eye of newt, which is a common one that you'll see in a lot of like movies and books and stuff, is actually mustard seed. Brains are congealed gum from cherry trees. Eyes are eyebright or daisy. Fingers are cinquefoil. The ear of an ass is actually comfrey. General tooth or teeth could just refer to pine cones. And corpse candles are mullein. And then just to take it a little step further, when a spell calls for a part, it often means that part of a flower or a plant. So the head is, if it says like a head of whatever, it's the flower of that plant. Any term with paw, foot, or leg or scale is the actual leaf. Tooth can be a leaf or a seed pod, depending on the plant. Guts are roots and the stalk. Tail is the stem. Tongue is the petal of a flower. Privates are the seed. Hair is the dried stringy herb. Eye is the inner part of a blossom, and heart is a bud of a large seed. We've said it multiple times in this episode and episodes before. When working with plants, of course, there are toxic plants out there. So make sure you're doing your research. I found this tiny little quote in this book that I'm reading right now. And I was like, you know what? We're just going to use it in the podcast because I like it. But what can cure can also kill. So this quote was from Rebecca Beyer from her book, Wild Witchcraft, which I'm reading right now and I highly recommend. It's absolutely beautiful and it has so much great information in it. So there are a ton of poisonous plants out there with a magical history. I'm only going to go over a few because, again, this could take days to get through because there are so many of them. I wanted to include a few like more common ones that you'll probably see in reading anything about herbal witchcraft. So belladonna, its Latin name is Atropa belladonna, and atropos means the terrible and the merciless, which I loved. And it was also one of the three fates who determined life and death. 10 to 20 belladonna berries are a lethal dose for an adult. So though even like the smallest dose can cause unpredictable results. So it doesn't mean that if you eat under 10 that you'll be like, oh, you're fine. No, you'll probably still be very sick. Or depending on your body, you could also still die. Liquid belladonna used to be used as an eyedropper to make women appear more attractive due to the way that it would dilate their pupils. It gave them what men considered bedroom eyes. I forget what year this was in. I should have looked that up and put it in the notes, but they used to basically make a liquid eyedropper from the belladonna berries that they could put like a few drops in their eyes and it would dilate their pupils to be really large. And this was considered to be sexy.
Gross.
Yeah. But it was also like poisoning them and making people sick. In the 1930s, people were prescribed belladonna leaf cigarettes dipped in opium tinctures, and these were smoked for pain and gastrointestinal issues. And it's said that the devil himself watches over the belladonna plant, but that he can be persuaded to leave by letting loose a black hen that he can't resist chasing. And I thought that was freaking hilarious. He's like, this is my plant. You're like, I've got this black chicken. He's like, fuck. Henbane. We actually have henbane that grows in our yard. It's like considered a weed, but it's also toxic. It's used for ritual and shamanic purposes in Eurasia since the Paleolithic times, and it's also connected to Hecate. The Gauls poisoned their javelins with henbane decoctions, while the medieval Anglo-Saxon herbalist mentioned it as a medicinal plant. So there's a lot of confusion on henbane. So again, this is why it's important to do your research. So basically, like the Gaul would take hot water, they would cut up the henbane plant and boil it in hot water and create this decoction. And then they would dip their spears into it to poison their enemies. But then, like, I don't know, it's also listed for medicinal uses. So you just have to be careful when you're doing these kinds of things. It's also believed that necromancers used the smoke from henbane to invoke the souls of the dead as well as demons. Medieval bathhouses would spread the seeds over hot coals to incite titillating feelings, but they would take like the hot coals within the bathhouse and just sprinkle the seeds over. And apparently the smoke is kind of euphoric and creates like sexual feelings, but they put titillating. So I was like, I'm including that.
It's like a warning, like, we are going to kill you. You put too much on these coals. But before you do, you're going to feel aroused.
You're going to feel great. It's associated with divination and love magic. It's used in old witches' ointments. And then henbane is believed to be under the protection of Odin, and it represents the element of water. Mandrake is considered one of the most infamous witches' plants. While it is poisonous, it's on the lower end for this category, and it's connected to Hathor and Hecate. Egyptians used the roots as a powerful aphrodisiac. It's mentioned multiple times in the Bible. And before digging and cutting the mandrake root, it's said that you must first dance around it while saying as much as possible about the mysteries of love, or just essentially repeating as many indecent things as possible before you like cut the plant. If the act is considered lewd enough, it would frighten away demons and free the root from interference with lingering spells of ill intent.
Those demons would be scared to death if we tried to do that.
I just love that it's like you're just supposed to say like gross sexual things, and the plant's like, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
And then the mandrake represents the element of earth. So obviously there are a ton of other plants out there, but those were my favorites.
I love them. I didn't know anything about, I looked at henbane just now while you were talking about it, and I have seen that a lot, like on our walks here and stuff. I didn't realize how common it is.
It grows wild in my backyard. I mean, my backyard is pretty wild. Anthony let me kind of allow things to just be natural this year. Like he mows it, but like weed and feed it or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he knew I was like picking out chickweed and the dandelions, and we had an abundance of plantain. And so he was like, whatever, this year I'll just let you have your wild yard. But we have like fleabane popped up. We had henbane. I forget what they're called, but they're in the same family as daisies and dandelions. They look like a cross between the two. So they're like tiny, like little white daisies with the bulb on them, but they're like bright and colorful like the dandelion. We had so much stuff pop up, and I love it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We have in our backyard, I don't know how, because, we live on a military installation, but in between our house and our neighbor's house, my neighbor sent me a picture. She was like, oh, we have a bramble growing like on our side of the fence that's cut through to her side of the fence. She was like, we might be getting some like berries or something. And I'm like, really? And so she showed me, and I was like, well, goddamn, I guess you're right, but I don't know how. So I don't know if like somebody was walking, because there's a walking path behind our house, and they were eating some berries and they just threw it, or like
it could be birds. Yeah.
So we might have some random berries growing in our backyard this summer. We'll see.
We have a lot of toxic plants that popped up in our yard this year. I'm like going through like trying to identify them all, and I'm like, oh, don't touch this one. One of them, and it's actually pretty native to this area, pretty common to this area. I forget what it's called, but it has these it's really fucking pretty, right? I feel like all the poisonous plants are really pretty or really cool looking, but it's got these beautiful, like almost like fuchsia stalks, like really big ones. The leaves are these huge, like green, beautiful leaves. And then it grows these really pretty purple berries on it. But even touching the plant can make you sick. So you have to like, every time we have to like pull these out of the yard, like we have to wear gloves and like be really careful with it. But it's like a common plant for this area.
That is some bullshit.
It's so beautiful though. Every time it pops up, I'm like, I hate ripping you out, but I also don't want to die. So
right.
There's that.
I'm just glad, and I know that this is common in the States too, but I never ever ran into fucking stinging nettle in the States until we got here. And our house off base, it was like the whole sides and back of our house. A nettle everywhere. And there was like a little bitty like hidden area for the kids to play inside our backyard. And it was like so cute because it had like just like, I don't know, had like an archway made out of like plants and stuff. It was so cute. It reminded me of like the Secret Garden or something.
Yeah.
And the girls went back there, didn't know what stinging nettle was. We didn't know what stinging nettle was. And then like 2 minutes later, they come running out, screaming. Their legs are like on fire.
All red.
Just stinging nettle everywhere. And I'm just like, God damn it. And we didn't know which plant it was until we figured it out. Like, and it was all over our backyard. I hate stinging nettle.
I am going to say I'm slightly jealous because medicinally, stinging nettle has so many great properties to it. It can be used for so many things. Like I actually buy like huge bags of nettle, like dried nettle, and do infusions with it that you drink because it has a lot of just great things for you nutritionally and medicinally. You can do it with like tinctures. You can actually just eat it. It's great.
Like, how do they get the stinging shit out of it though? Like, do you have to like
drying it makes it so that it doesn't really, it might be sticky, but it doesn't sting. Because I do the same thing with, we have cleavers here. We get cleavers all over our freaking yard. And they have little hook hairs on them that they use for climbing. So essentially they'll attach to everything next to them and just keep growing by pulling themselves like that. So if I'm out in the yard and I don't notice that there's a cleaver plant, like if I'm picking dandelions or whatever, it'll immediately it's like they see you. They're like, boop. And it's not that it hurts or anything, but it is irritating. Like it is a skin irritating, like little hook or whatever they're called. Mm-hmm. But I dry them out. I just use garden gloves to like pick them and break them down, and I dry them out. But once they're dry, they're just sticky. It doesn't like Velcro sticky, essentially. It doesn't actually puncture or hurt at that point. And then just using them, like infusing water, doing decoctions with them, or tinctures or teas or whatever, you're just soaking the plant essentially. So you're not actually using the plant to like put on your skin or to eat, but they actually have a bajillion properties to them that are great too.
Nice.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff I did not know about plants.
Look, I told you I can talk about plants all day. This is what I love. I don't know why I waited so long to go to school for this. I think it was more I just didn't know that before it wasn't like popular. So there wasn't a lot of programs out there for it. And the ones that they did have were really expensive. And I'm not saying mine was cheap. It definitely wasn't cheap, but it's easier to find like herbal academies or schools now that you can do online. It's great. I love it. I get to be a nerd and enjoy it.
Yes. And you can tell me all about your cool things.
Yeah. And then when Anthony and I go on hikes, I'm like, oh, this plant. He's like, can we just hike, please? Can we not stop every 5 seconds for you to tell me all about the plant and what it does?
No, Anthony, we can't.
We love it. Well, one of the guys from D&D that Jen is hiking with today, he forages mushrooms, and I'm not brave enough for that, at least not yet, because there's so many, like, again, this is why you have to do your research on these things, but there's so many lookalikes that it's like one small difference. So if you don't notice that and you eat it, mushrooms can be very deadly, like scary deadly, or make you very, very sick. And so I definitely am not brave enough to do that yet, maybe one day in the future. But they're out hiking right now, and he's like, I can't wait. This is where I forage for all my mushrooms. And I'm just like, oh, that makes me nervous.
Yeah, that would make me nervous too. And you even hear like horror stories of like families who grow up foraging mushrooms, and they accidentally eat one that's poisonous, and the whole family's fucking dead the next day. Like, I will not forage mushrooms. I just won't do that.
I buy mine, like, I talk about Forest and Meadow all the time. I absolutely love them. I actually use it in my coffee. It's delightful. They have something called Shroom City powder, and it's like a cocoa powder that they made with like 5 different medicinal mushrooms that are great for like cognitive stuff and like different like lymphatic system stuff. So I just sprinkle a little bit of this cocoa powder into my coffee grounds every day with my cinnamon, and it's fantastic. But you can also bake with it. Or one of the farmers markets out here, they're like a little small family owned thing called Ozark mushrooms, and they grow all of their mushrooms and sell them at the farmers market. And you can get them dried, you can get them fresh, you can get them like in sauces and oils. It's great. I love it.
It sounds amazing.
It is.
That's it for this episode of Get In Loser, We're Doing Witchcraft. You can find our source material for this episode linked in the show notes. If you love this episode, we would be forever thankful if you leave us a 5-star review on wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you really love this show and want more Get In Loser content, check out our Supercast link provided in the show notes, or search the Supercast website for Get In Loser, We're Doing Witchcraft. There you can purchase a membership to our podcast and obtain exclusives, like getting episodes early, shoutouts on the show, access to our Ask Me Anything forum, our monthly newsletter, a promo code for merchandise, and more.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Get In Witches, or email us at we'redoingwitchcraft@gmail.com. Check us out next week where we will explore spirit guides. Until then, blessed be witches.